Ain't No Half Stepping with Marcus J, live from the den, Legacy Internet Radio. Thank you to everybody who has been joining us throughout the show tonight as we progress and finalize the show that we've done tonight, the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. special show, today being his, or what would have been his 89th birthday. So I am very thankful for those folks who have joined us tonight, and I'll get my thank yous in here momentarily. I just want to remember that we have, just want you all to remember that we have a few housekeeping things to get to, as we do at this part of the show every single week. Our Missing Child, as well as our History Moment. So I'll go ahead and give you the Missing Child now. This week we're looking for Kiara Butcher. Kiara Butcher is missing from Dinwiddie, Virginia. That's a suburb of Petersburg, which is about 30 to 45 miles south of us here in the capital city. Kiara Butcher is missing from Dinwiddie, Virginia. She's a 17-year-old black female. She stands 5'7", weighs 115 pounds. She's got black hair, black eyes. Last seen on December 23rd, 2017, and she goes by the nickname Key. If you have seen Kiara Butcher, please contact the National Center for Missing and or Exploited Children on their website, missingkids.com, or .org rather, or contact them at 1-800-THE-LOST, 1-800-843-5678, or contact the Dinwiddie County Sheriff's Department at 804-469-3755. As we go through the night, I think it would be irresponsible if we did a history moment and it was something other than what we have dedicated our show tonight. So the history for tonight is on Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., who was born on January 15th, 1929 in Atlanta, Georgia, to Reverend Martin Luther King Sr. and Alberta Williams King. King's legal name at birth, many don't know, was actually Michael King. And his father was also known as Michael King. But the elder, his dad, changed both his and his son's name. The elder King would later state that Michael was a mistake by the attending physician to his son's birth, and the younger King's birth certificate was altered to read Martin Luther King Jr. In 1957, King's parents learned that they also had some Irish ancestry through their paternal great-grandfather, strangely enough. Martin Luther King was the middle child. He had an older sister, Willie Christine King, who is still living, and a younger brother, Alfred A.D. Williams, known as A.D., Alfred A.D. Williams King. Dr. King sang in the choir. In the 1939 Atlanta premiere of the movie Gone with the Wind, he sang at that premiere, which was pretty cool. He loved music. He loved to sing. His mother was an accomplished organist and choir leader. She took him to various churches to sing. He also received attention for singing, "I want to be more and more like Jesus." He would later become a member of the junior choir in his church. Martin Luther King was a very, very smart young man, going to Morehouse College and graduating early. And after he graduated from Morehouse College, he ended up going to study, actually he got his BA in 1948 at 19, so he obviously finished college early. He ends up going to Crozier Theological Seminary in Chester, Pennsylvania, from which he graduated with a divinity degree in 1951. His father fully supported his decision to continue his education. In 1953, on June 18th, he married Coretta Scott on the lawn of her parents' home in Helberger, Alabama. He was 24, she was 26. Of course, they would become the parents of 4 children. Yolanda King, born in 1955, we lost in 2007. Martin Luther King III, born in 1957. Dexter Scott King, born in 1961, and their youngest, Bernice King, born in 1963. In 1954, at the age of 25, Dr. King was named the pastor of the Dexter Avenue Baptist Church in Montgomery, Alabama. It is around about a year and a half later when, actually on December 1st, when Rosa Parks was arrested for refusing to give up her seat in Montgomery. The bus boycott urged and planned and led by Dr. King, soon followed. Boycott lasted 385 days. The situation became so tense, King's house was bombed. He was arrested during this campaign and was concluded with the United States District Court ruling Browder versus Gale that ended racial segregation on all Montgomery buses. King's role in the bus boycott transformed him into a national figure and the best-known spokesperson for the civil rights movement. In 1957, Dr. King, Ralph Abernathy, Fred Shuttlesworth, Joseph Lowry, and other civil rights activists founded the Southern Christian Leadership Conference. The group was created to harness the moral authority and organizing power of black churches to conduct nonviolent protests in service of civil rights reform. One of the group's inspirations, the crusades of, surprisingly enough, the evangelist Billy Graham, who befriended Dr. King after he had attended the Graham Crusade in New York City in 1957. King led the CLC up until his death. We know about, and we spoke of it earlier, about the 1963 March on Washington on August 28, 1963. Of course, King becomes more and more prominent as civil rights becomes more and more on the scale, on the national consciousness of our people, of the American people. It's also during this time where the country is beginning to see the hateful and racist nature of many of the Southerners, the Southern whites, as they spray water, sick dogs, do all kinds of mean and nasty things during peaceful protests, sit-ins, things of this sort. It is during this time that Martin Luther King's peaceful nature is put upon the national spotlight because, you know, it must be something that comes from great, great courage to be able to sit through nonviolently while these things are going on. And I thought that, or just kind of sharing my thought on that, I think it's amazing that to this day you have some who view those tactics as not the appropriate tactics. But I think the reason why we celebrate a day like today is because of the courage that it must have taken for such things to go on and there be no retaliation of violence, which quite frankly did nothing but anger the oppressors even more, which strengthened the position of the oppressed. Martin Luther King was assassinated on April 4th, 1968, in Memphis, Tennessee. He was in town to help with the sanitation workers, the Memphis sanitation workers who were striking at the time. He was someone who was all about the oppressed and the poor. Obviously, his focus was on black people, African Americans, some would say, but he was one who would help and put his neck out on the line for anybody, poor people, black people, people that were oppressed. I think that is the reason, or one of the reasons, why his legacy is so strong, because everyone or anyone can understand how important it is to be a champion for those who can't be a champion for themselves. I could sit and eulogize Dr. King, and I could sit and talk forever about it. You can hear me getting a little bit choked up just even talking about it, because he is one of my idols. He sits on my Mount Rushmore of amazing, amazing people who have lived, and he is one of the very few people who's no longer living that if I had an opportunity to speak with someone who's no longer here, he would certainly be one of those amongst the top of that list. That is a history moment. I appreciate you rocking with us. This time I want to get a couple of thank yous out. I want to thank, first and foremost, I want to thank my brother K-Dub, who joins us here on Ain't No Half Step and Marcus J quite frequently. And he's a long-time contributor. He's been part of the show since the very, very beginning, and tonight was no different. I want to thank my brother Damon, PB, who made his Ain't No Half Step with Marcus J debut as a guest on the show. And so it was really cool for the three of us to kind of get together and have our conversation in three different states. K-Dub's down in Georgia. I, of course, am here in the cap city, Richmond, Virginia. and Damon is home in Queens, New York. But, of course, we all rep Jersey City, New Jersey, and we appreciate any opportunity that we get to spend some time together, even if it is on a three-way call for the show. So, and last but absolutely certainly not least, a very, very, very special thank you goes to my mom, Mom J, for joining us and offering her insights in the Martin Luther King conversation that we had tonight. She shared with us her feelings on his history, and it wasn't history for her because she lived through it. She was there at the March on Washington. So I thought that was outstanding. To have her and her insight, as always, is definitely well thought out and absolutely necessary. So thank you to her. You're listening to the flagship show of Legacy Internet Radio. It's called Ain't No Half Stepping with Marcus J. We air our show every single Monday night right here live from the den of Legacy Internet Radio, 7 p.m. Eastern until we finish. Tuesday night, Life Ministries, Living in Freedom Every Day, 7 p.m. Wednesdays, hashtag Brother and Sister Shenanigans. Thursday, this one time at the gym. Friday, Couch Coach Live. All those shows are at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, Monday to Friday. Saturday mornings, we replay our shows that we have aired throughout the week. So if you missed anything, you can catch up and listen to those shows during the day on Saturday morning. Take you right up to 3:30 p.m. Eastern with a New Balance, 6 p.m. Eastern with I Got Something to Say, and then we play the Bob Marley and the Family Reggae Mix all night, taking you into Sunday morning when we pick up with Amplified Gospel. Amplified Gospel airs all day on Sundays, taking you right up to 3:30 p.m. Eastern on Sunday, the Michael White Show, and then the Satin Room at 6 p.m., and then we round out the week with Doing Time at 8:30 on Sunday evenings. So, all times are Eastern, of course. And when we're not having our live talk shows, we're playing music, eclectic mixes. You know, we like to have a little bit of an old school feel to the music. So, you know, it's good stuff that you can drive to, and old school hip-hop, old school R&B, soul, you know, a little bit of soft rock, you know, the kind of stuff that we kind of grew up listening to, those of us of a certain age. So that is what we do here at Legacy Internet Radio. We appreciate those longtime listeners who are with us now and who will continue to be with us throughout. We celebrate 5 years of Legacy Internet Radio in March. So that is going to be an outstanding month for those shows that are here to help us commemorate 5 years in existence. Legacy TV returns later on this spring. So we've got a lot of really, really cool things that we're doing here at Legacy Media Group, Legacy Internet Radio, as well as Legacy TV. And we love, love, love the fact that you guys listen to us every week, whether it be here on the air on legacyinternetradio.com or on TuneIn or on our replays on YouTube. So that is the thank yous and everything. So at this time, I'll close it out with my rant and my closing. And normally I will play some Bob Marley music, but tonight is all about Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King. So I'll dispense with the pleasantries of music and just kind of go with the Martin Luther King rant that I want to kind of get into. And I kind of gave you a history a few minutes ago, but I'm going to drop a little bit more of a history lesson today of all days. I'm seeing a lot of conservatives using Martin Luther King as a black Republican to justify some of their rhetoric. So let's set a few things straight here. First of all, Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. was not, I repeat, was not a Republican. He was unaffiliated. Many black people were Republicans during Reconstruction leading up to the Civil Rights Movement. Martin Luther King Sr. was said to be a Republican, but Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. was not a Republican. He was an independent who refused to declare loyalty to a party because he knew that both sides played the middle, and he chose to make them work for his support. Now let's talk about the Republican Party, the party of Lincoln. Lincoln reluctantly emancipated the slaves, reluctantly and strategically, with the purpose of crippling the South and the Democrats, of course. Now, once allowed to vote, because of this, because of the emancipation, blacks were basically voting Republican. And they did so for basically the next 100 years because the Democrats were known as the racists who wanted to keep slavery and Jim Crow in place. Years later, as the climate changed, so did one key element in both of those parties, and that was the perception of racism. Folks like Lee Atwater developed the Southern Strategy, and the Southern Democrats, also known as the Dixiecrats, began to change their party affiliation to Republican. It's why those states are red to this day. The civil rights bills were largely written by those Republicans, but championed by the Democratic President of the United States, John F. Kennedy, and signed by Democratic President of the United States, Johnson, solidifying the black vote to this day. So while it's understandable to think that Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. was a Republican, he was not, and I repeat, he was not a Republican. That is the Marcus's unrelated rant that had absolutely everything to do with tonight's show. That's the end of the show, y'all. I want to remind everybody that independence is key to building your legacy. I also want to say peace to all the stars and all of the squares. The abundance of water, the fool is thirsty. Those are the words of Bob Marley, who I end every single show with. Ain't No Half Stepping with Marcus J. will re-air in its entirety immediately following this airing. We will be back right here, live from the den. Legacy Internet Radio next week, y'all. Peace.